Call to order the Planning Commission meeting Thursday, October 13th. Begin with roll call.
Joe Chappell.
Here.
Abe Gassenpour absent. Brent Linford.
Here.
Don McBride absent. And Aaron Rooney.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
All right. How should we handle public comment?
Hold on. Approval of minutes.
Oh, approval of minutes.
Yeah.
I skipped that part.
That's all right.
All right.
If
Approval.
you guys could just approve both sets because...
Can we?
Yeah, for the most part.
Even though I wasn't here?
Yeah, they can vote on it, or I don't know. You guys can vote. If we wait, it could be months.
Well, that's fine. Okay, well, do I have a motion for the minutes of August 11th?
Motion to approve.
But he wasn't here either.
Neither was I.
We'll just wait then.
He's the only guy.
Yeah, we'll just
Yeah.
wait. He can, yeah, we'll wait. That's fine. Because I don't think we can do September either.
Okay,
We haven't had a lot to do for a little while.
all right.
Oh, no, you and...
Actually, public comments were next. I was right.
I'll table them.
Should we wait to have the public comments when we address each issue, or does anyone have any public comments that aren't in reference to the two items that are on the agenda tonight? If you're here to speak on the agenda items, then we can wait till we get to that agenda item. All right. So, item number 4 is PC application number 22-012. This is discussion and possible action on a request to rezone an approximately 37-acre portion of property from R1, which is single-family dwelling district, to I2 General Industrial District, and a request for a special use permit to allow for a concrete batch plant and associated uses within the I2 General Industry Zoning District for an approximately 37-acre portion of property located in the northwest quarter of Section 9, Township 15 North, Range 2 West, generally located along the south side of East Seward Road between Sooner Road and Interstate 35. Staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you indicated, there's the rezone and a special use permit. So I wanted to just briefly explain that it is two different actions. It's obviously being run concurrently because we're talking about the same property. But the rezone could be approved without the special use permit, but the special use permit can't be approved unless the zoning is approved. So because of that, there'll be two separate decisions or actions that will be taken. The first will be for the rezone, and then the second, if that's recommended for approval, take action on the special use permit. As you indicated, this property is south of Seward Road. The applicant owns the 105 acres there, but only the approximate northern 37 acres is within the city limits. They're proposing a concrete batch plant in the far northeastern part of that property, which is part of the city limits. Thus, that's why they're here tonight in front of us for the request. The comprehensive plan designates the property as commercial, but you'll see on the plan there's also a large portion of industrial that goes north of that, actually where the church is, and that area there, the I-35 corridor generally has been designated for industrial type uses. Probably the primary reason this property was zoned R1 to begin with is that was the zoning that was given when it was annexed. There was not a lot of, I would say there were probably no analysis done at annexation for the proper zoning. If anything, this probably should have been designated ag at the very least, but they made it R1. They made all the property south of town that are there R1, which isn't really suitable for most of the uses. Most of those should have been ag, so there's a lot of legal non-conforming properties that we have south of town. The In my staff report, you'll see that I went over all the, of course, the rezone, but also the special use permit and some of the, if you want to say, analysis of that, given the location. Also talked about traffic, and there's a few other things that I went over. One of the things to also take into account is the city doesn't have any environmental regulations, but this will have to go through the State Department of Environmental Quality for permits, and they'll also be the ones that would monitor it through its life if it were to be approved. So if there's any of the environmental issues, that's at the state level, not at the local level. Basically with that, I'll leave it because we do have a lot of people here that obviously want to talk, so I'll leave it to the commission if you have any questions of me. But just generally for the public, whoever wants to speak can speak because this is a public hearing, but I ask that we just kind of do it in an orderly way. And if there are a lot of the same type of comments, you know, just kind of say I agree or that, you know, a lot of the stuff, I don't know if we need to go into detail with everybody in that, but again, just kind of be courteous and you know, kind of go as each person is done in that, and we'll make sure that anybody that wants to speak can speak. So with that, I'll give back to the commission if you have any questions of me. If not, then we can start some of the public comment. And I believe, is the applicant here?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. So they are here as well. So usually we give the public a chance to comment, and then the applicant can address not only any those issues, questions, but they can also address anything from the Planning Commission.
I have a question.
Yes.
Didn't you say that the property north of this is industrial?
Designated industrial. It's zone commercial.
It's zone commercial?
Yeah.
Oh, it's designated, what, in the comprehensive
Yeah,
plan?
as industrial.
But it's commercial?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's zone C2.
And that's where the church is
Yep.
and all that
Yeah.
property?
Yeah.
So it's not industrial, but it is designated?
Designated, yeah.
All right.
So when was the property annexed? Do we have any idea?
I'd have to look, but it would have been probably back in the 70s, 80s, somewhere in there. Most of that property down there was in the 70s, in that late 70s, somewhere in there when most
This
of
is
that.
also the last bit of property. This is like, nothing south of this is Guthrie, right?
No, correct, because that's the thing. The remaining basically 70 acres to the south is in the county. Like I said, the applicant owns the whole 105 acres, but it's only the 37 that is in the city. And only that portion on Seward's on the south side is in the city. So the Rockaway Bar that's on the corner, and then this property is all that's in the city. Everything that's on the south side of Seward to the west is in the county, and then, yeah, everything south of this property is in the county.
And east of it.
Yeah, and east of there as well on I-35 is all in the county. So it's a little notch, and honestly, I don't know why they put that little notch in there when they annexed it.
Somebody had to have it.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I can tell you that, you know, when you get around Liberty Lake and go down to Forest Hills and all that, that was all annexed due to the watershed of the lake and the lake. But, you know, here, it might have been too, there's and I didn't mention that, but there's the floodplain that goes through there. About 47 acres of the total 105 acres is floodplain. Where they're proposing the actual concrete plant is out of that floodplain. But there's a wetlands floodplain that runs through there, and it was probably annexed as part of that for the kind of runoff from Liberty Lake to the north.
I hate to be this guy to bring this up, by the way, but how does this, with them being built on city property, how does that affect our city sales tax? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, anything that's within the city limits that generates the, you know, sales for sales tax obviously goes to the city in that. So, you know, whether it's an industrial business, commercial, you know, anything like that.
Remind me again, what's that percentage, or what, do you have any idea what the?
Percentage of
Our sales tax?
what ours is? Our actual sales tax, I think, is around 4%. Because the total's around 9 when you take the county, the state, and ours. Ours is around 3, almost 4%.
How does that compare to cities around here?
Say, the total sales tax,
Yeah.
about the same, yeah.
Like
I mean,
the-
generally in Oklahoma, you have higher sales tax because municipalities don't get property tax, so the only revenue generation they have is through sales tax.
Okay.
What,
So I guess we should proceed with some public comments. And please, like Dan said, we don't want 8 people repeating the same thing. So if it's a new comment, applaud the guy if you agree with him. And certainly, we've got some flexibility here, and we'd like to hear as many people talk as you guys feel is necessary. But we've had this happen before, where for an hour we're talking about the same issues. So
And please, only whoever's at the mic.
yeah. So when you come up to speak, give us your name and your address, and feel free to let us know what you're thinking. Anyone?
Just have a quick question. I live south of Guthrie Lake. Seward is my access to 35. How will these trucks go in and out of that property, and where will their predominant place of construction that they're going to supply concrete to be?
That's a great question for the applicant.
90% of our trucks are gonna get on I-35.
And when you
Yeah, if
answer,
you
you
don't
do
mind.
need to go up there, because no one, all the 12 people at home that are watching, they won't be able to hear you, because everybody's here.
90% of all of our trucks will go up and down I-35.
Are these 11-yard trucks?
They'll be 10. We'll be
10?
legal 10.
Will they be have the axle
They'll
off the
have
back?
the booster axle and the pusher axles, yes.
Okay. How's that going to affect Seward Road, just the roadway? And
Everything right there on all the entries.
I need you
on
guys
all-
to try to speak a little bit more into the microphone when you're talking, sorry.
Everything on the bridge embankment is all concrete going across there. So predominantly, everything that we're gonna be running on will be concrete. We're not gonna affect it.
So they'll use 35 to go into Guthrie or north, or south?
Correct.
to where-
Yeah, we won't use Sooner. There's no reason to go up and down Sooner unless we're delivering between Sooner and Waterloo, or between Seward and Waterloo.
That's all I had.
And just probably to make things easier, if the crowd does have questions, we'll basically, and if it's for the applicant, we'll kind of let everybody kind
Oh,
of
we
say
can-
that, yeah, and then the applicant can have the opportunity to kind of
To
go
address it
over
at the
everything.
end,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Yes, sir.
I think it'll flow better.
My name's Greg Hannenkamp. I live at 8815 Tall Oaks Drive in Canyon Creek community. I'm concerned that the concrete plant is going to lower our property values. I'm also worried about the health and safety of children, men, women, and elderly that live in this area. We take a lot of pride in it. So what I did, I'm a pharmaceutical rep, so I went to the internet and I downloaded clinical trials and studies. There is a study published from Rice University, Kinder Institute of Urban Research. It's entitled, "It's Hard to Breathe with a Concrete Plant in Your Backyard." I'm just going to take excerpts out of this, but it says literally State Representative Armando Ali says you can't breathe. It goes on to say dust blows from the concrete plant over their roofs, their cars, their barbecue grills. They can't go outside. They can't have friends over. Dust is everywhere. Dust is a kind of air pollution called particulate matter that can concentrate deep into the lungs. Heavy diesel trucks line up as early as 2 a.m. and idle noisily on local streets, emitting more pollutants like black carbon and nitrogen dioxide. The trucks tear up the yards, the drainage ditches, and other infrastructure governments have to repair it. Attempts to water down the dust ended up creating an ugly, muddy slurry that tracks all over the community. I know Center Road is a disaster already, and if you put more trucks down it, you might as well just tear that up and put 18 inches of concrete in. I have another study here from the Environmental International, published in May of 2012. It's health effects on the population living near a cement plant. Just read from the abstract, just some highlights to evaluate the possible acute health effects of air pollution due to the emissions of a concrete plant into small municipalities. Statistically, the results were statistically significant risks were found mainly for respiratory disease among children with an attribution risk of 38% of hospital admissions due to exposure to concrete plant exhausts. Think about that, 38%, that's 4 in 10. These reports show an association between the exposure of plant emissions and the risk of hospital These results show an association between the exposure of plant emissions and the risk of hospital admissions for cardiovascular and respiratory causes. This association was particularly strong for children. Have another study. International Archives of Occupational Environmental Health, published in November 2017. It's entitled Increased Incidence of Respiratory Tract Cancers in People Living Near Concrete Plants. The purpose of the study was concrete contains arsenogens such as chromium and free alica, and hence inhalation of concrete dust can cause respiratory tract cancers. The purpose of this study was to determine whether living near a concrete plant increases the risk of respiratory tract cancers. Their results: the incidence of lung and bronchus cancer was significantly higher in all subjects. In addition, the incidence of larynx cancer in men and salivary gland cancer in women living near concrete plants was also increased. Their conclusion is concrete dust is a risk factor for respiratory tract cancers. Okay, another one. This one came from Cosmosphere, March.
I think we get it.
2019. Well, I think this one I think is really key. You should hear this. This is short. Adverse health effects of concrete plant exposure has been found in occupational context, but less defined for the general population living near concrete plants. We aim to summarize the evidence of health effects of people exposed to ambient air pollution by cement plants. They looked at a total of 1,491 articles dealing with this, and their conclusion is almost all these studies found positive associations between concrete plant exposure and respiratory diseases and symptoms, and excess risk of cancer incidence and mortality in both children and adults, mainly concerning respiratory tract cancers, was also reported. That's it. You can have these again.
Thank you. Thank you for your effort on that.
I'm sorry?
I appreciate your effort. It was very impressive.
Thank you for hearing me tonight. My name is Bob McMillan. I live at 1810 West Lakewood Drive. So basically, this is going to be in our access to I-35. That's my personal relationship to this. As a introduction of who I am, I received my Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering at Wichita State. I spent the last 24 years of my career working for a multinational corporation that manufactured equipment for petrochemical and other processing plants. And a good part of that was spent in doing duct work on coal-fired power plants for their selective catalyst reduction units to reduce NOx emissions. So I don't have all the studies that this gentleman looked up, which is a great thing. What he looked up was great.
You're still above my pay grade.
I retired to Guthrie 7 years ago, so that's That's why my wife and I are living here. So the thing is, what he was talking about, the air pollution, if I could take a common saying and modify it slightly, the road to hell's not paved with concrete, it's paved with good intentions. And I'm sure these gentlemen have great intentions of keeping the air clean. But the truth of the matter is, concrete batch plants have a notorious record for polluting the air. Part of my career was spent in the actual engineering and design of equipment and the project management, and the other part was spent as a manager of the business side. So I understand the business, okay? And I know everybody in business has good intentions to keep things clean. But the bottom line is the bottom line. And pollution control is not a money maker, it's a cost of doing business. And so when push comes to shove, the bag rooms are probably the worst maintained in concrete batch processing plants. The bags get overfilled, and then you start getting the dust out into the community. And part of that dust is the sand. The fine particles of sand will escape. You breathe that into your lungs, and you end up with silicosis, which is not, it's a bad, bad deal. In that area, the church that's across the street from them is putting in walking trails. And it's not for the church, it's for the entire community. You can go in there on their nature trails and walk. And those people are going to be breathing in silica from this plant. You've got the Rockaway Bar, tavern right there, and those people have an outside area for entertainment, and they're going to be breathing it. Across the street, you have the grocery store there, that a good part of their business is involved in live bait for the lake. And the runoff from this plant is going to be going into Guthrie Lake. And if you end up killing the fish in Guthrie Lake, this business is going to lose its main drawing card. And then probably the worst thing about all this is a catty corner from them is a school. So we're going to have our young children going to this school, and they're going to be breathing this air. And this just doesn't make sense to put it in that area. And then beyond that impact of the environment, the access to 35 Highway, that area of 35 Highway, we're in the bowl there of 35, and the trucks right now are ridiculous. You get out on 35 Highway, and you're boxed in by trucks doing 50 mile an hour in the fast lane, passing a truck doing 45 mile an hour in the slow lane. And I've heard that they're talking about widening that area to 6 lanes, but my experience in Oklahoma when they do something like that is I'll probably be dead before they get it widened. I mean, so, and granted it might only be 10% of the trucks go to Sooner and Seward, but right now, if I'm in anything but my truck, I have to run through that intersection diagonal to keep from bottoming out. It is a bad, bad intersection that I realize you guys are trying to keep, the city's trying to keep up, you know, kept up, but the thing is they come in and they fix it, and within a month or two, it's back to the same thing with the 2 ruts on each side. And you run 10-yard concrete trucks through there, and it's, you might as well take the asphalt out of it and just have a dirt road there. I mean, that's the way it's going to be. So because of all of this, I wanted to voice my opinion that this is not a good idea for Guthrie. Thank you.
I did also want to let you all know that we were supplied with, I think, at least 6 letters, so that if you sent a letter to Dan, that he shared those letters with us, so we have.
Yeah, I was going to mention that when we were kind of done. I appreciate that. Wanted to make sure that the people who did send them in knew that they did.
Yeah.
Because yes, there were 4 in the packet, and then 2 more have
2
been
more.
received, which I gave you tonight.
Yes, sir.
My name is Gabe Pruitt, and I'm owner and CEO of Anvil Environmental, and I live on Seward Road. I've got 15 years of experience doing industrial hygiene studies, doing environmental studies, consulting, remediation, you name it, we do it. Where this is at, well, one thing, y'all were asking why that 37 acres was annexed. The reason it was annexed is because that is the watershed for Lake Guthrie. It's not just a wetland. It is the watershed. That's what feeds Lake Guthrie. So, and where they're talking about building at.
Which
is up
someone
on-
also provided us with.
Yeah.
Someone out here,
That
this
was
was
me.
part of their letter.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
That is the watershed. That whole property is a watershed because where they're proposing to build is up on top of the watershed. A watershed is called a watershed because it takes all the water from the runoff and feeds the lake. You build a plant where you're talking about building it, you're gonna destroy the lake, point blank. There should have been, if they're gonna say that they're gonna use a vegetative barrier, you guys don't know the area. It's a low-lying area. Where you would be building it would be up on a hill. No vegetation is gonna stop that. There's a school right there within 500 feet. Y'all did not take any considerations into this location. And it shows by having no plans at all. So that's all I've got.
Is there an existing cement batch plant on the other side of the
Yes.
highway?
Yes,
Less than half a mile from this.
yeah, on the
Less than
opposite
It's right
interchange.
behind the Shell station.
Yes, yes.
I speak,
come down sewer, go over sewer.
I speak briefly on the concrete batch plant that's across the highway. I'm Desiree Goodwin. I live at 120 North Drexel. I'm a real estate broker, and I'm here to represent my parcel owner, Mrs. Smith. I'm also here as a general concerned citizen of Guthrie. It's my professional opinion that the most likely outcome for Mrs. Smith and the rest of these property owners is a reduction in property value. The plant next door to Mrs. Smith, as you can see, I don't know if you guys have my map, but she is this small green parcel right here, and she is completely enveloped by the Van Eaton parcel. Putting up this plant drastically limits her future possible users and future potential uses, and that is a reduction in value,
Can we
no
see-
question.
Can we see that map?
Yeah, do you have more?
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I believe that even the corporation in question believes that they will damage property values, as was made evident by their offers to me. They first offered Mrs. Smith the full appraised value of $1.250 million, and when they secured the land to the west, they turned around and offered her $500,000. It's a $750,000 reduction in their perceived value. Going on past Miss Smith, I believe that she's not the only one that will experience unfair and undue burden on their property values. Just ask the 53 homeowners in the adjacent south parcel. There's also homeowners directly to the west, there's homeowners to the northwest, and there's homes to the west that will pass this plant every single day. I've been in real estate for almost 10 years, and I have never passed an industrial application that wasn't immediately followed by the questions, what is that? Is that safe? How does that affect us? How does that affect the property value? Every single time. If the Van Eaton Corporation is given special rezoning, it will again, in my opinion, drastically affect property value, quality of life for the local residences and businesses, like was already said, by putting extra strain on this important commercial interchange. I do want to talk about that for a minute from a city planning aspect. There is a much higher commercial use for this interchange. This is the last developable corner from Edmond to Stillwater on a full diamond interchange. I want to say that again. It is the last developable corner from Edmond to Stillwater. Surely the city of Guthrie and Logan County can find a higher economic use that does not infringe on the property rights of so many other people. I'm aware that there's an asphalt. I'm aware that there's an asphalt production plant that's on Seward Road further down. It's my understanding that they have been there since 2007. Since 2007, as the Oklahoma population continues to explode, as people continue moving from cities to more open spaces, and as Guthrie continues to grow as a cultural hotspot, we have art, we have music, we have film. We need to be triple checking our city planning, and we should be doing our city planning with beautification in mind. We have so many people moving to Guthrie. You can't stick an industrial site in the middle of people's homes. They were put in 2007. Our needs are different now. We want to preserve the infrastructure at that important economic exit. I'm going to say it for a third time. It's the last developable corner from Edmond to Stillwater. As Waterloo becomes developed, this is the next corner. This is the next corner. The Department of Transportation puts some 40,000 vehicles a day passing this highly visible exit. That's 40,000 people a day making their first impressions of the city of Guthrie when they enter from the south. Can you imagine the next film that's shot here? They'll say, you know you've reached Guthrie when you pass that batch plant on the west side. To put something like 40,000 cars a day in perspective, I want to draw attention to the intersection of Highway 77 and 33, which only sees 12,000 cars a day. We lay a heavy developmental hand on that intersection and on the area surrounding that. Should we not also broaden that hand to include this interchange? That is the only exit for the Lazy E Arena. And again, hopefully we can have something developed here that better serves the community and takes in tax dollars. That's it. Thank you.
Next.
I should have spoken earlier. They were awful eloquent, and I might sound stupid, but I do represent an interesting group. I represent, we are part owners of the Rockaway Bar, the building, and represent them. I also represent tonight Community Church. Not that they all hang out
What
over
a
there,
combination. I was always trying to find a spot for you, and I still can't figure it out.
But on the other hand, what's interesting about that, you can take one side way over here that likes to do this, and one side likes to do that, and we have a common, I won't say enemy, but we have a common problem. Let's put it that way. And this is a very big problem. I think I like everything I've heard about short-term problems. Dust, noise, unsafe, the water, that was great. And she was great on economic consequences. So short-term, we got these problems. Long-term, I always think of Guthrie as we're booming. And this is the gateway to Guthrie. This property is the gateway. And everybody that comes to Guthrie is either going to go right by it or right beside it. And I can't imagine, I think it's the worst application for a special use in the history of this group. And most of it's been said, but I do have one question for the gentleman, and sales tax. Where is sales tax collected when you sell?
Point of placement.
Yeah, point of sale.
Placement, not where you sell it, where they take it. The city of Guthrie's not going to make any money on this. That was sort of suggested early on, but let's get that straight. So on behalf of, I even talked to a guy today in my office that has a subdivision over by his little airport subdivision east, and he has to put up with what's on Seward Road on the other side, talking about how bad that is. And also I know Pastor Williams has talked to the church across from the Rockaway, and they're very much against it. They got a school going. Pastor Williams has a school 2 days a week now. We got kids outside 2 days a week. So let's think about that. Thank you.
Nikki Smith, and I live in Edmond, but I own the property that's on the east side of Seward Road, on the south side. That's going to be right up against the concrete plant. They're going to come down my west side and to the south of my property. I've got about 9 acres there. It's zoned light industrial. It has been since
You're right on
1980.
the corner,
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
like the access road?
Directly adjacent to the east. Yeah.
I'm the one in green on the back. There's not anybody in here that hasn't wanted to see all that property get zoned and get light industrial to make it boom. I've got mine for sale. My husband passed away in February. We've owned it since 1980. I'm concerned with that kind of a business going in, devaluating the property value that we had appraised this summer, and it is on record. I don't have big words. I don't have big speeches or anything. That's my biggest concern on what's going to be going in, which will affect who's going to want to buy mine sooner or later.
Thank you.
That's it.
My name is Kristen Apples-Craver. I live in Canyon Creek, right up the road on Seward. And I grew up in southwest Michigan and right across the lake from Chicago. And so you had to drive through northern Indiana to get to Chicago every time. I don't know if you gentlemen have ever been to Gary, Indiana, or even heard of Gary, Indiana. It is a major industrial town. Nobody stops in Gary, Indiana. Nobody wants to stop in Gary, Indiana. Gary, Indiana smells. It smells like petrol. It smells like chemicals. Everybody rolls up their windows and tries to keep from breathing the air until they're well past
So it's
Gary,
like
Indiana.
Wynnewood.
What's that?
So it's like Wynnewood.
I'm not sure what Wynnewood is. The noise in Gary, Indiana is quite deafening. People do not voluntarily move there. The people who are there are stuck there. They have been stuck there. They cannot move out because nobody wants to move to Gary, Indiana. The same thing has applied where I lived in Texas, in McKinney, and they had a cement plant down there. And the people who lived within a 5-mile radius all had chronic health problems. The children were very, very sick. The medical bills were mounting, and the concrete plant wanted to expand. And so we had to put up a fight against that. And they kept saying, well, we can mitigate, we can mitigate, we can mitigate. Mitigate does not mean safe. Mitigate does not mean you will not have a problem. And I don't see the city volunteering to pay medical bills for children or elderly who will be sick, babies who might develop respiratory problems, people's homes who will be severely impacted, as well as our water, as well as all the dust going up, coming down onto agricultural, people who have horse farms around here, people who are trying to grow food just to survive on their own, or maybe, supplement the skyrocketing costs of food in general these days. The lead and mercury that is in concrete causes heavy metal toxicity, which has a wide range of implications, a few of which are inflammation of the brain, which has been linked to autism, chronic asthma, and these things are almost impossible to get out of your body, almost impossible. So if that's coming down into your water and that's coming down into your soil and you're trying to grow food or you're giving it to your animals who might end up being food later on, you are literally stuck with that. It's in your water that you drink, that you bathe in, that you wash your clothes in, you wash your children in, you wash your car in even. So every time you're touching your car to open it, it's still there. It will not be washed away. Once it goes into your soil, it's there. And this isn't just, the natural kind that kind of is there and then goes away. This is massive amounts, and I know they'll say trace amounts, because when people don't want to admit that something will accumulate, they like to say trace amounts. But those trace amounts add up and add up and add up and add up. And Guthrie is a beautiful city. We are so happy we chose to move here just a few months ago. And every day my husband and I, that we drive into town, we go, we never want to live anywhere else. But I do not want to see Guthrie turn into Gary, Indiana. It is dingy, it is dark. You might as well call it London 2.0, honestly. And that's all I have. Thank you, gentlemen.
Any new topics? I think we've covered quite a few. There might be something that we're missing.
Does anybody else have anything to say that they'd like to say? about the school or is it just real brief?
Yeah, I'm Dr. John Gray, I'm a general surgeon, emergency medicine physician. We moved here about 3 years ago. The wild card to all of this is the entire issue of the COVID pandemic. Everybody likes to use that as an excuse, but the reality is we're seeing respiratory diseases, we're seeing the expansion of problems of that nature among all age groups. And I'd love to be able to come up and give the information this gentleman has. The problem is, that's going to be the next generation of physicians that are going to be coming and talking to communities about how to deal with the long-term effects. We're starting to see it, but again, that's a 10 to 20 year project to get the data that we're going to need. And at this point, with the politicization of a pandemic, never have an election and a pandemic in the same year. We learned that lesson. But the issue, but the broader issue is that we're seeing changes. We're seeing things that are going to be quite a bit different. And I think we're going to have to be extraordinarily cautious about the stewardship of our air and living areas, because this is going to have an impact, and we don't know what it is. We don't know how significant it's going to be. But it will be there, and we're going to have to live with that. And so in terms of this, the general studies that have been done, there were significant studies done over the years on this exact issue, and they've been very problematic. They're political in some ways because of the inequitable distribution of industrial activities in terms of committees, in terms of the communities of color and the economic effect and where they place them as a function of avoiding political pressures. But this is going to be a wild card that we're not going to have an answer to for a while, and I suggest extreme caution, because if you're putting something into the air, the population you're putting them on is now an impaired population, and we don't know where that's going to go. And it's going to be very difficult to remediate that. Thanks.
Hi, my name's Phil Crissup. I'm representing my wife, Donna, and her sister, Linda. They're both from the Elliott family, and their family bought the quarter section just to the west of the Rockaway. There's 110 acres of undeveloped land in there to the west of the existing housing addition there. And they bought that land back in '93. That was 1893 that her family bought that property. So they've had that since 1893. And I'm an engineer by training, 40 years of industry experience. And I know that there's an engineering answer, and we've heard the engineering answer from the planning engineers, but there's a human answer, and it's different, I think, and it goes in line with the city of Guthrie's stated objectives, and they're posted right there: integrity, service, and quality of life. And it's my opinion that approving this permit to rezone and the special use permit will decrease the quality of life in the city of Guthrie, and therefore should be not approved. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Linda Seeley. I live in Lakeview Estates. On this map that they gave you, these little ones right here at the very, very top, those are the property lines. We live up in that neighborhood. And you'll see it's to the north. And guess where the wind typically blows in Oklahoma? From the south to the north. So even though we're way up there, we're probably going to get a lot of this air pollution. But the reason I wanted to speak to you is because I'm a long-time Guthrie resident. My mother has had a retail establishment here. I grew up here. I was a high schooler here. I came back here. I raised my children here. They came through the public education system here. And now we have a beautiful little blue-eyed 2-year-old grandson. And in the backyard of my house that's right there, we go outside and we fly kites and we play frisbee and we chase the dog. He has asthma and allergies. I don't know what this air is going to do to my ability to enjoy my grandson outside in my property. This is where we're going to retire and live the rest of our lives. I don't know that this is going to be the possibility for us if this cement plant comes in. So from my heart, knowing all the facts and figures, but from my heart, I know this is not the right choice.
My name's Tony Ingram. I live 300 feet west of the property that is in question. And just a couple of things I want to talk about. There are other people as well who have property like Phil since 1893, that are still in the area out there. Their families were out there. They had that entire community, that entire block, or gosh, acres and acres of property out there, including the convenience store and where the church is, the Lakeview Baptist Church, which actually used to be the city of Guthrie Lake, came all the way up to that intersection where that church is, and they used to have a kind of a platform out there and a dock, and people would come down and they'd go fishing and be a part of that. At any rate, one thing I do want to mention that the gentleman mentioned about the trucks on the road. I understand that they can take I-35, but I tell you, the other plant that's already out there west, I sit down there every morning because I can hear those trucks and I can see them. And they come down Seward, they come over the bridge, they turn on Sooner, and where are they going? They're going to that big mall development on Waterloo. And they're dumping that's where they're taking their concrete. Just what this gentleman said, that's what they could do. Within that region, they could go down Seward. Just on top of that, if you're looking at taxes, 4% of taxes, whatever the tax is, will never, ever match up to what it would cost to repair those roads. Even today, those trucks are violating weight limits over those bridges, up and down that road, the noise from those trucks. They start at 5 in the morning. Like someone said, they're probably up there at 2 and 3 in the morning getting ready and loading up, but they're running down there at 5 in the morning. Another thing I'd just like to mention is the Rockaway Bar. The Rockaway Bar used to have a well. That well is contaminated by E. coli. Why? Because that's a tributary down into the lake, the city of Guthrie Lake. So the Rockwell Bar had to actually go on city water. What about the people who have wells out there? But more importantly, what about the city of Guthrie and the water department? All the citizens in Guthrie could be affected by this. One of the gentlemen mentioned about dying fish from chemicals. You contaminate that lake, you contaminate Guthrie water supply. And traces of the chemicals that come from a concrete plant can do that. And that'll affect the entire city of Guthrie and the water supply. I don't think our water tastes all that great as it is in Guthrie, but we're trying. But we don't need someone else to help contaminate it. And that's all I have to say. Is there anybody else that has a comment?
Thank you. Anyone else?
If not, we can
How
let
about
the
the
applicant. Yep. The applicant.
Does anyone want to say anything?
Yeah, I'll start.
Yeah.
My name is Chris Atwater. I am with Van Eaton Ready Mix. I deal with health, safety, and environmental. First, I want to say thank you all for having us out here tonight for some question and answer. For you folks here in the Guthrie area, I'm from Edmond personally, but I do come up here quite a bit. We actually already service in the Guthrie area right now, so we're kind of your neighbors. The first thing I want to tell you guys is for the environmental stuff, we are regulated under the Clean Waters Act and the Clean Air Act. And what that means is we have to follow federal laws that already are on the books, and it is handled by the state who enforces that, and that is the Department of Environmental Quality. And I see, I do, sir, I do. And anything we can do, even after this evening, to answer questions one-on-one, we are more than welcome to do that for you folks. But DEQ is who regulates what we are required to do under the Environmental Acts, Clean Water, and the Clean Air Act. We're forced to follow those, and that is not because we're forced to, it is because it's the right thing to do. Our plants are set up to draw dust out of the air using dust collectors. We have water management programs. They're called best management practices. Those are utilized that we don't release contaminants that aren't supposed to be out there. One gentleman talked about silica. Yes, silica is a component of cement powder, concrete powder. And that is, we deal with containment with that, whether it is during loading methods or whether it is when we are bringing them into the plant from a trailer into our bins until they are put into the trucks. As far as water management, our properties, we follow the stormwater pollution prevention plan that doesn't allow any of those materials to get off site. Again, regulated by the Department of Environmental Quality of Oklahoma. And I don't know, does Guthrie have a local environmental that does enforcement inspection or anything like that?
No.
No, nothing
All
like
at the
that.
state.
And all of our state, anything with state inspections, those are available 24 hours a day for inspection easily by email, so we can share any of that with you. For the health, I just want to say, again, you brought up some good points. I like this. We've had industrial hygienists come in and do studies of our employees who are exposed to it continuously. Through monitoring, we are well below what the limits would be for an employee exposure. But on top of that, we also maintain it through dust collection, through water management, through best management practices, decreasing any air pollution or any of the cement dust that you would see go into the air. So I do understand the health concerns there, but it's something that we do address in our operations. What were some other questions? Help me out here so I can get all of yours.
Can I just point y'all to the picture that's attached, of their asphalt plant that they use now? That's nothing but dust. Every bit of that. You can't control that. Especially if you put it on a bald hill.
Sir, do you mind if can I borrow your picture for a second?
And if I can add, the first study I quoted was from Rice University. They followed all the rules, the guidelines, and everything else. And do you want me to reread it to you again? The dust is everywhere.
The rules are set up for the employees.
Guys, we can't have people speaking off mic.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Apologize.
Real estate value, you asked what the other concerns. I was just.
Oh, the real estate value, absolutely, we'll get to it. And I'm just gonna come back to yours really quick. This is actually an aerial photo of the Edmond operation. Oh, I'm sorry, sir, what was your name? Gabe?
Yep.
Pleasure. If you actually look in that picture, and I don't know if you shared this with everybody to be a public picture, we actually are only about 1/4 of that entire facility. The rest of that, this is a small lease property that we operate on. The rest of that property is actually an asphalt plant and an aggregate storage reclaim.
Those are at, but where that picture was at, that is, I didn't zoom out. I zoomed in, so that's why it's a little bit still, because I zoomed in, so that I dig with the asphalt plant. That's y'all.
The asphalt operation is not ours. We deal with the concrete specifically. And just from your picture and us having a fair conversation with the public present, our units, we do have dust collection available on our units to help reduce that. And
But not for your bulk storage.
I'm sorry.
Not for your bulk storage for when that picks up the dust.
Cement powder, which would be the respiratory hazard that everybody would be typically concerned with, is actually stored inside of bins or inside of trailers. It actually isn't an escape dust. It's nuisance dust. We would keep control of that.
So you got that dust, it's like having a dusty road. If you have a dusty road that runs right in front of your school where your kids are playing, that's an issue. It would be magnified by 1,000 just by y'all trucking in and out, the gravel and everything that y'all would need.
Excuse me. Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. It's just very difficult with two-way conversations of individuals and all of that, so, yeah.
No, thank you,
It's not
Gabe.
anyone's fault,
Yeah.
I'm gonna give this back.
but we've got a open meeting act, and anyone not speaking up there is not gonna be heard.
My apologies.
Well,
Um,
no problem.
Which portion of this is actually the cement?
The very north central.
Would you mind?
No, I'll point it and then I'll go talk about it.
Yeah. So this,
Also, the primary use for that facility.
If you want to step up,
is
yeah.
crushing concrete, not owned by
Sir.
us.
Oh, sir. Oh.
So, Mr. Rooney, what I circled for you in that top corner, that is the location that we operate within, and that is a leased property that we are on. The rest of that property is actually a is owned by TJ Campbell.
so this, what you circled here would be a good representation of what is gonna go in at?
Yes, sir. And depending on, the plant area is a very small footprint. The outside edges are the vehicles that we have on site and traffic lane in and out.
What, so this seems like a pretty rough place for y'all to try to get a cement batch plant put in. Why here? I mean,
Yeah, Tracy.
why here?
City of Guthrie has zoning regulations.
Yeah.
Logan County does not. Logan County does not. So anywhere south of this piece of property that is within Guthrie city limits is gonna have a batch plant on it.
Could have one,
It does not have to be,
could have one,
correct.
without going to any
Without
commission.
rezoning or anything else.
Which that's gonna get you also, because you're on literally the watershed.
But for the zoning itself and for the use of this property, Logan County, which is why there are 5 ready-mix plants north of Waterloo in Logan County instead of in Oklahoma County. That is exactly why.
And why is that?
If I could,
This is-
just real quick, just if I could, the gentleman is correct. Logan County does not have zoning, they do not have permitting processes. All activities within Logan County are unregulated. That's why you have a lot of the issues you have with different subdivisions and different areas and roads and that, because there's nobody to hold anything accountable. It's strictly regulated. One of the good things about that is you can do whatever you want. One of the downsides about that is you can do whatever you want. And so that's one of the factors of the county is it's unregulated in that, so,
people who already live there just don't matter?
no, that you need to take up with your county commissioners, because they're the ones years ago that got rid of the zoning. All I'm saying is, anybody who builds in the county does not have to go through any approval process. There's countless homes in the county, I guarantee you, that are not, that are not built to, right, that aren't built to current codes because there's no oversight. They're supposed to, but they're not.
I'm trying to make a decision, and I'm trying to make up my mind.
But anyway,
with
just
people.
to help explain what's
questions.
going on, is this could be down south, and unfortunately, there's not anything that anybody could do about it.
Okay, so pretty much,
I'm just explaining, yes, they still need those permits, but the point was, there's no zoning.
I guess, so my concern is if we deny all of this, y'all will just build a cement plant anyways, but on the part of the property that.
Correct.
Well, hold on, I'm talking to this gentleman. I'm talking, please let me. Yeah, and help me, this is kind of my first big decision.
I'm not here to
trying
make
take it
enemies. We want to be,
Excuse me,
Yeah, yeah.
if we could let the applicant talk, the crowd hasn't had an opportunity to talk. They were not interrupted. Can we please let the applicant talk and explain their side of it? Please be respectful.
we've been in business for 25 years. I have not ever had one single employee have any respiratory issues, cancer, no carcinogen problems, no problem whatsoever.
And I'm well aware, I'm actually, I have a degree in engineering. I work for a Fortune 500 oil company. I pumped a lot of cement down oil wells, and I've been involved with that stuff. So I'm aware of all your guys' requirements, and that's not necessarily our peer review, but regardless, my point that I was trying to get to before, you guys are in sales. I mean, you want to sell cement. You got a whole bunch of pissed off customers here. What are we doing? It seems like
Every one of you at home has concrete in it. Every single one of you.
exactly.
We don't have a plant next to us.
Yeah.
You still do. You all have a plant within half a mile of where this location is at.
Out away from the
Okay, but here,
not right next to the school.
let's just keep it up here. Okay.
Focus. So, just think about that. That's my point there. And I'm full aware though. You know, I want to consider everything to the best of our abilities, and I'd like to have faith
I
in
want
it.
to make clear to everybody in here, we're an advisory board.
Yep.
I hope you know that. And regardless of what we say tonight, this is going to go to council. Whether we're for it or against it, you're going to have to show up at that council meeting. And I really think, outside of the fact that I think the crowd, I think you covered everything you could cover. And if you have anything that you still want to say to us,
So I have.
please feel free. But he needs to be uninterrupted at this point.
Yeah, I'd like to be uninterrupted too.
Yeah. And him too.
So here's my other thing: is not only do you have a whole bunch of pissed off customers, you also have a whole bunch of people that are going to be watching your butts. So all of those regulations that you spoke about, I hope you're ready to live up to them. Right? So think about that. Regardless of if we deny this, which that's where I'm ready to make a motion if anybody else is. But
when he's through speaking.
yeah.
But we have 5 other locations, all of which has residential neighbors. Hardly ever have any complaints. And if we do have complaints, we work to mitigate that complaint. I have 4 kids. He has 4 kids. We all have kids that deal, and why go to work with me sometimes?
Yeah.
I'm not worried about the way we operate in terms of emissions.
Well, I mean, we've all been involved with some of those helplines. I think, especially through COVID, some of them are better than others, and I'm not familiar with y'all's. Maybe it's really good. I don't know. That'll be one of my recommendations for people. If it is good, these people would probably be aware. Has anybody been involved with complaints? Been involved with any complaints? I mean, what does that process look like if someone files a complaint with, I don't know, one of your truck drivers?
Truck drivers have complaints all the time, whether it's ours, anybody over the road. How many people gripe about truck drivers every day? I mean, that's a common deal.
Casey, may I say
Yeah.
something really quick?
Go for it.
Thank you, sir. I just want to tell you a quick Guthrie citizen story really quick, just to say if there was a complaint. So Jordan will giggle about this. There is a job called the Guthrie Special. This was a wonderful mistake that I made when I made a decision to make repairs when we damaged something for somebody. One of the Guthrie citizens, we were pouring at their location, we damaged their driveway. And without me going to look for it and make sure, how damaged is it, how bad is it, I offered him a truckload of concrete.
Man, that's pretty small compared to like completely damaging the water table.
Absolutely, I understand. Yes, but this is just an anecdotal thing about when we have a complaint, is that we take it very, very seriously. I offered a $1,200, my apology to make it right with a citizen because we did something silly and we broke something. And on a higher scale, air pollution, watershed, absolutely understandable. But as a company, we take everything very, very seriously.
Well, I mean, you didn't really take it seriously talking to these people, these fine people that are here tonight caring about the neighborhood.
My apologies if I came across wrong. Jordan Everett.
Jordan Everett, I'm general manager for Van Eaton Ready Mix. This was my first job when I was 15. Been back with the company 11 years. The reason coming back is the integrity and the care that this company has for the employees and the people in the community. We could very easily, like he said, put this on the south side and not have to go through this. But we want to be good citizens, good partners. And where we have our proposing location is in the furthest point from the intersection of Sooner and Seward, away from the schools, away from the neighborhoods. And then we were able to get on and off all of our access as much as possible. We don't have that project down Sooner, or that he's referring to where all the people are going up and down the road. We don't have that project. And if we did, it'd make more sense for us to go down 35, one exit, one stop. It's about efficiency for us where we want it. The other option, like, unfortunately, would it be coming up and down sooner? Not something we want to do. It would have heavy traffic at that 4-lane or that 4-way stop. But as far as the water runoff, the impoundments we have and the stuff we do there to hold the water, we recycle the water, the environmental, we're almost fully dedicated CNG, so the diesel emissions isn't there. But he talked about dust collection, so at the point of discharge, that's being collected and recycled. And then talking about the blow-offs of the material when it gets loaded, if the bag houses, somebody referenced that. We have pinch valves, which does not allow that to happen. Several years ago, that was an option. You know, that was a potential problem. That's no longer a problem with our facilities. We have a location downtown Oklahoma City on Council and Reno. School from our operation is less than 500 feet. No issues there. They've rezoned a property next to us at our driveway that's going to be a retirement community. The way we operate, like he said, we're not concerned about our employees from the standpoint of long-term effects because we mitigate and we protect our employees. We're going to do the same thing for the community. Where we want it and where we would like to put it in doing this process is to hear your concerns and make sure that we're doing the best we can to make sure we're a good partner in making this happen.
Also, we're allowed 0 watershed. 0.
So why are you building on a watershed?
We have-
Gentlemen, you
we
need to
are-
speak to the microphone.
Our requirements, it's not allowed.
You're on a watershed.
That would be something that, like I said, the stormwater will have to determine, even if this is pushed through, it'd be up to them, so. Yep, and then if that's not done, then it's not done. And then on the purchase of the other property, we were moving forward with that. The property on the far northeast corner, and unfortunately, the DOT right-of-way wouldn't allow us to have access to that property. So that was the reason we backed out of that, not because we had another project. This land was found months after that.
There was no due diligence done on your part.
Excuse me?
There was no due diligence done on your part. There was nothing.
Please, sir, you've had opportunity to speak. Please let the
I don't have any
applicant.
more questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Just want to address a couple of things the gentleman said. He said that this plant, which the other gentleman mentioned, that was going to go up anyway, or insinuated that it would if this didn't go through. He said that they weren't going to be next to a neighborhood. I have people back here that the property line is right next to this property where they said they were going to put this plant if it doesn't get approved. So I just wanted, that's a correction on that part.
Our proposed location is far northeast as possible.
Yeah.
I have something I would like to add. There's an enormous watershed that runs through this area. There's also a floodplain. The reason that they want this property to be built, or the reason they want their plant to be so far to the northeast, is because it avoids the floodplain. That means lower insurance. You can't build a lot of things on a floodplain. You can have parking lots, you can have right-of-ways, you can drive on a floodplain, you can't build a permanent structure on one.
That's
why they are
incorrect.
seeking.
That's incorrect.
Can you?
Yes, there
explain?
are regulations you have to follow in a floodplain, but the only area that you cannot build is in a designated floodway. That is not a designated floodway.
Is this not a designated floodway?
No. It's a floodplain.
So it would make it more difficult if they were not able to build in the far northeast corner.
There's
Is that
more
right?
regulations involved, yes.
Thank you.
I really think at this point we've heard about everything that we need to hear. So do I have a motion?
I'll motion that.
I'll second.
I'm sorry, who was the, what? Okay, what was the motion?
To vote on the.
No. Oh, we need a vote to
Yeah.
accept.
Because again, if I can, right now what you would be voting on is the rezone.
Right.
From R1 to I2. If you deny that, we don't have to worry about the special use permit. So right now, the vote on the rezone. Because without the rezone, the special use permit cannot be approved.
I'll motion to vote on the rezone.
Yeah, we just need a
Well, we
motion.
don't need a motion to vote.
Yeah, we just need a
We just have-
motion.
We need a motion to. in
Either
favor
approve or deny.
against it.
Yeah.
And my opinion, for what it's worth, and I don't know that this is correct, but, you know, to change the zoning, well, I don't know, to change the zoning and then not allow the cement deal doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Why change the zoning at all?
Well, because if we don't, well then.
Until you know what's gonna go there.
Well, I mean, if we approve it, we can play ball. If we don't, they just do whatever they want.
Not on city property.
No, because if you deny if you deny the rezone, the whole thing goes away. The only way you can consider the special use permit
goes to
is if it's
council.
zoned, yes,
Goes
if
to
it's zoned
council.
to, what?
Motion to deny.
To deny the zone, rezone.
The rezone, okay.
Okay.
Is there a second?
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay,
And I've got a second.
all right. Brent Linford, sorry, Brent?
Yeah.
Yes. Aaron Rooney?
Yes.
Joe Chappell?
Yes.
All right, so it's a 3-0 to recommend denial. So as I indicated, we don't have to go. We don't have to go through the special use permit. For the audience's sake, this will go to the November 1st city council meeting. It's already going to be on the agenda. At the council meeting, you do have to sign up to speak. Yeah.
And hopefully they control you all better than I did. Okay, we're going to move right on to our second item, and I hope that it's not as contentious. This is for PC application number 22-013. Discussion and possible action on a request to rezone a property located at the corner of Rutgers Avenue and South Birch Street, Oak Park Addition, Block 22, Lots 6 through 12, from R1 Single Family Dwelling District to R2 PUD, General Residential District Plan Unit Development. For a 12-unit residential development, the PUD includes requests for exceptions to minimum lot size and setbacks. Staff report.
Staff report?
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you indicated, this is also a rezone, but it's going through the planned unit development process. The property is currently zoned single family. The proposal is good to go to R2, which is our general residential, but also with a planned unit development. One of the big reasons they're having to go through the planned unit development is our comprehensive plan has never been implemented. So basically it can't be accommodated through our current zoning. So that's why they're going through the planned unit development process so they can get exceptions to some of the existing criteria. It's designated high density residential in our comprehensive plan. Basically the plan that they put forth, which is 2 6-unit apartment buildings for a total of 12 total units, would fit within the high density category of our comprehensive plan, in that. So you saw my outline of all of the criteria through the PUD review standards that would be required. Staff felt that it met all of them. One of the things that I would like to just state, because I think it's very important, is, you know, as I've said before, we need to look at a more housing diversity within our community. We're predominantly a single-family based community, which honestly in the long term is not sustainable. We need to look at options to have, whether it's duplexes, 3 to 4 units, and even what I consider small-scale apartment projects such as what is being proposed here. One of the other things that this benefit of where they're at is they're within the original platted area. And so that helps to disperse the traffic and create less traffic problems than if it was kind of on an island of its own. There's already existing services there for water, sewer, so there's no extension of services, no extension of streets. So from a planning's perspective, it helps to add units to our community, but also have a minimal impact to the infrastructure and also the livability of our community. So with that, I'll give it back to the the commission. And then if you have any questions for me. And I'm assuming there's probably maybe some public here that may like to speak as well.
So, yeah, do we have anyone here to speak on it? Okay, got a couple of people. All right. I guess we'll go just like the last one. Anyone that has concerns about the project could speak first.
My name is Eric Troxel. I live in right there on the corner of Perkins and Birch, which is directly, basically right in front of where they propose to build that. I bought my property with the premise of an investment. I built a big deck on the back of my house that overlooks that property. Not only will it devalue my property, then I don't want to sit there and go out on my back porch and look at the back of some apartments. You know, that's not what I bought it for, you know, for the enjoyment of me and my family and everybody, my kids play out there, you know. I realize that company's been building a lot. They build a lot of homes. I don't mind if they build some homes back there. That's fine. It's going to up everybody's property value, and it's going to be less traffic, and it's just going to be better for the whole community. We already have a lot of people driving through there, lots of speeders, day and night, all times. It's just not what I want to see there, you know. And prospectively, it could end up being something like the state housing that's there. And then the taxpayer ends up flipping the bill for them to build their property anyways. I just don't want to see that. I think it's going to lower everybody's property value, and it's going to bring a lot of noise and traffic through the area that we already have. And that's about all I have on that.
Okay, thank you.
My name's David Toomey. I live at the southeast corner of Springer and Birch. It's not in my backyard, potentially like him. However, the traffic, like he mentioned, is already a problem. Rutgers, which would be just to the north, the north of that property right there, it's only 173 inches, the street wide. Springer is just a little over 15 feet wide. If you're driving anything bigger than a Honda Civic through Springer, somebody's yard's going to get driven in, and it's already a problem. I think this would just exacerbate what's already an issue, and not to mention the potential for extra crime, lower property value. Not saying that hoodlums are going to be moving in there, but you know, there's statistics out there that could prove that. So I'd like to.
You guys know it says luxury apartments.
Yeah, and also I would just like to note that across the street.
I mean, I was kind of excited when I saw it.
Yeah, and this is across the street.
Free from the Guthrie Housing Authority, which has done nothing to lower values in the area, and it's at a much greater density than this property.
And I've seen some of the other properties that they're doing. They look nice.
Yeah, like he said, we would welcome single-family homes to be built in there. I don't see any reason why they can't build, you know.
Why they need to dip into the rental thing and make potential income over years and years and years when they're already raking it in and they're buying properties all over Guthrie.
Yeah, guys. My own thing, I mean, I run a construction company now, and I get phone calls from people all the time looking for rental places. So
There are none.
yeah, there's just not.
I've even had people tell me they've moved out of town because they couldn't find anything.
Well, the R1 zone that I was able to pull up online, I don't have it with me, but it's pretty small
And
for that area right there.
these
So
aren't
as
like-
far as there not being an opportunity for them to build apartments, I don't see that as the case. You know, there's plenty of land around, there's plenty of spaces for
I'm ready to make a
apartments
motion
to
to
grow.
approve.
Is the applicant here?
Yeah. I don't believe they are.
You know, I mean, do y'all want to step out your backyard?
Okay, and one thing I want to say, gentlemen, is that, just like I said last time, we're an advisory board.
Yeah,
They don't rubber stamp us.
I understand.
You need to go to the council meeting if we don't rule in your favor, or the applicant needs to be
Yeah, I would
informed.
want a luxury apartment in my neighborhood.
Like I said, if it was single-family structures,
But,
homes that they've been building, it's perfectly sustainable.
Okay.
well, no, because we already have a motion on the floor.
Yeah, we have a motion
Yeah.
already. Thank you, though.
It's done, yeah, so
I motion.
Just hold on.
Okay, have a motion to approve, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay.
Okay.
So we have a motion by Rooney, second by Linford to approve. Brent Linford,
Yeah.
Aaron Rooney,
Yes.
and Joe Chappell.
Yes.
All right, here we go.
All right.
And just for the gentleman left, if you could tell him, but this is on the same agenda as the cement plant. It'll go to the city council, November 1st. Yep.
Thank you. All right, any staff comments?
None.
Any commission comments?
Now, the only concern I ever have with apartments is their ability to keep it up and not turn it over to Section 8 or something like that.
My only thing is we have openings on many of the city's councils. Any of y'all's enthusiasm, we would appreciate your participation.
Exactly.
He's talking to the people at home.
Yeah.
He's not just talking to you.
We have openings.
Yeah,
It's a
you
lot
need
of
to-
fun.
Any other comments?
No. I think that's it.
Okay.
So we're adjourned.